Welcome back everyone. So today's video is going to be pretty special because it's a 10k sub video. So the first thing I want to say is thank you so much for all the love and support for the 10k subscribers. So today we are going to be talking about Bifrost. So I thought today is something special, so we should celebrate that. And I just want to say thank you for supporting. I have so much vision for this channel and what the future holds for this channel, and gradually we'll see how this turns out to be. Now one more thing, a lot of people are asking me to create Bifrost videos, and the one thing I want to say is I'm going to create Bifrost videos. It is going to be there. It's just going to take a little time because the way I'm keeping this channel is in a bit of a chronological order that people should understand what is the basic of Maya. And as we go further and further, I'm going to introduce XGen and Bifrost and Mash and so on, everything that Maya holds. And then when Maya is we are finished with Maya, we are going to gradually move into other softwares like Cinema 4D, Blender, Houdini, and so on, or maybe talk about other render engines. So there's a lot of vision for this channel, as I said. So it's going to be there pretty soon, but it's just going to take a little bit of time, and that's it. So with that said, let's get on with the video. So today we are going to be creating a Bifrost liquid simulation. Today we are going to basically create that nice chocolatey advertisement that you see on TV or YouTube videos, the Magnum ads and kind of like that. So we'll see how we can create that liquid simulation. Now to start off with, you need a reference. So what I've created basically here, I have a single image of a Magnum ice cream. So I'm just gonna import it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my front view, image plane, import image, and I'm just gonna import my image. I should have it. Yeah, there you go. So this is the overall image that I have, and we are going to be creating an icing out of this. So I'm gonna bring this backward. All right, let's bring this up. So it's a bit easier for us to trace this. And also if you'll notice closely, it's not completely center out. So what I'm gonna do is just manually center this. All right, and that's it. So the image is too bright for my eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the alpha gain by hitting 0.4 value. You can reduce it even more if you are having trouble understanding the image. The next thing I'm going to do is when I'm modeling this, I don't want this image to be bugging me. So I'm going to just add it into a new layer and just lock it. So I can't touch this image anymore. All right. So now to start off with, we are going to take a simple cube. You can also take a CV curve tool if you want to just create that shape. Totally depends on you. I'm going to start off with the cube, and let's bring this cube out. I'm going to hit 4 on my keyboard for the wireframe, and let's zoom in. Let's turn off the grid for now. Okay, so this is what we have, and let's see. So my Maya may look a little bit of different because the reason is I like to change the colors and a little bit of UI here and there. So pretty much all of the things are the same, maybe just some color adjustment. Apart from that, the rest is same. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this hit R on your keyboard, and let's scale this. All right. Now there's one thing that our image is not perfectly accurate. All right. It's going to be a little bit here and there. So what you can do to make sure your design is perfect is trace only one side, either left or either right. For example, I'm going to choose right for me. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down, and let's scale this up. And again, I'm going to go to the face mode, select the bottom face, Control, deselect the top face, W, shift and drag. All right, shift and drag, and that's it. All right, so let's keep it here, hit R, scale this way down. And then again, you can go to vertice and select this down. And if you don't want to see the modeling phase, you can just skip ahead. I've also mentioned the chapter names, so you can quickly just skip through them if you already know how to create this. So this is just for those who don't know how to model or anything like that. This is just a basic step guide, and that's it. So now when I press 3, you'll notice that we get a perfect ice cream. All right, so I'm gonna keep it to right about here. I'm just gonna make this vertex a little bit bigger, all right, to fit the right size here. Okay, and there you go. So now comes the part where you want to decide how much depth you want on this thing. All right, if you want, you can change it or you can keep it to 1, totally up to you. So I think I'm going to go for 0.95. I think that's a good value. Now the next thing what we want to do is if we smooth this, you'll notice that we get something like this, which looks a little bit weird. So to fix this, what we can do is we can simply select all of this. All right, and shift select all the edges, these one as well, and the bottom part as well. Right, so you'll notice that we have selected this edges. Shift right click for the bevel, or you can also click on this icon, or maybe go to edit mesh and bevel. So the shortcut key for that is Control B, and there you go. So you have the bevel. You can control the amount of fraction you want on this. All right, how much cleaner or smoother edges you want on this. And once you're done with that, you can simply add some segments to make sure it's a bit smoother. All right, so I'm going to keep it two segments, but if you want, you can add a bit more into it. I'm just going to keep it a little low poly for now. Okay, so once you're done with this, you have something like this. Press 3 and you'll see that the shape is a little bit off. So what you can do is select edge mode, double click here, and there you go. All right, select on this one, and there you go. So I think we just need to push these edges apart to something like this, and I'm gonna also select this edge, just a little bit of adjustment here and there. So we are adjusting this in the smoother value, in the smooth mode. All right, remember that. Okay, so the one last thing I want to do is, although this mesh is pretty good, we don't want to make any changes to it, but there is something that we want to create, and that is a stick right here. So either you can take another cube, or the best method is you can create a duplicate face out of this ice cream and then model out of it. So for example, I can right click here and face, and I can select the face. I can hold shift right click and I can go duplicate face. So what that does is basically it creates a duplicate face out of that surface. So here you'll have the surface. I can call this ice cream, and I can call this stick, a bit easier for us to understand. And once you're done with this, make sure you center pivot this. What you can do is scale this down, all right, to something like this value, and then extrude this and just create your depth. All right, so I'm just gonna create some depth out of it. I'm gonna select this vertex, bring this up. All right, and let's maybe select the face and shift and shift. Oh, there you go. So right about there, vertex right there. So I'm gonna be tracing this right side, not the left side, and it will be perfect at the end. All right, okay, so there you go. I don't think much is needed for this. And again, here you can decide how much depth you want on this. All right. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So when we press 3, you'll notice that we get something like this. So here you'll notice that we are getting a bit of a smoothing point. So to stop that, what you can do is I'm going to shift I on this, press 1, and simply delete this face. All right, click outside, shift I to get out of isolation mode, and there we go. So now we have something like this. So what I'm going to do is to again make this a little bit wider, and also just select all the edges you have on the front side, on the back side. Don't forget to select the bottom edges, sorry, and the bevel, and let's add 2 segments, and there you go. So that's it. That's all we want for this. And again, if you want to make some changes in the smoothing mode, you can do that, and that's it. All right, so that's it. This is what we needed actually. Now the next thing is you can apply some shaders. If you do want to create a UV out of this, what you can do is you can quickly go into the UV editing. Now the UV will be a bit of a mess, so I'm going to delete this. Let's select this and create a camera based UV. The next thing you can do is you can select all these faces, hold shift, smaller than, and select all the faces that you see, and shift right click, create UV shell, bring this outside. And again, you can do the same. You can select this faces and this, and you can grow this selection. All right, shift right click, create UV shell, and bring this outside as well. Keep it anywhere you want for now. And then again, if you want, you can create a seam on the top right here. It's totally up to you, or you can also create it on the bottom. And I'm going to select both of these edges, simply go to cut and cut. All right, so again, I'm going to select this. It will create entire UV, as you can see, right? So I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go to unfold and unfold this. Take it, unfold along, and optimize, unfold along, let's select this guy here, and we can actually straighten this out. All right, I'm gonna rotate this. Let's go to arrange and layer, orient shell. Let's see. Either you can also use an unfold tool. Sometimes that helps, like in this cases. And let's rotate this, and then you can go for orient shell to basically straighten them up. So I'm going to select this guy here, bring this out here. All right, and let's basically do that, and again orient shell this and straighten UV. There you go. Now once you're done with that, bring this guy around here again, rotate this so we have this perfectly, and there you go. And again I think the orientation is pretty good. So again at the end, select everything. I'm gonna rotate this again to something like this, select everything and simply layout along, and if you want you can also unfold this along. So I'm gonna just scale this up a bit so it matches this exact proportion. All right, so there you go. So now if you look at this, you get a perfect UV. All right, now again you want to do the same process with this guy. You have this shell right here. You can delete this again. You can go for a camera based UV, and then you can hit 1. All right, I'm gonna isolate this guy, face, select all the faces, create UV shell, bring this out here, and let's go for another back face like this, create UV shell, bring this outside, and where do you want the scene? Totally up to you. Select this and cut. All right, so I know it's a bit of the procedure is a bit fast. I'm doing this a little faster because I don't know, most of people are here for the Bifrost or the modeling or the UV, so I'm creating most of my part for the Bifrost. So this is just an idea of how you can do this for those who have a little bit of idea how they can model but don't know properly how they can. So this is for them. All right, and again you have all the chapters and everything. You can just skip ahead to the part you like, and let's select this guy, optimize and orient shell. All right, so I'm going to select everything and just, all right, so that's it. I'm not going to do much changes here, so this is what we have. All right, so a very nice looking Magnum. So what you can do is, if you want to do a permanent smoothing on this, you can also go to mesh and simply hit, where is it, smooth, there you go. I think 1 level of subdivision is enough for the stick. If you want, you can increase subdivision 2 subdivision level for the ice cream part. All right, then you'll be able to create that nice simulation. All right guys, so here as you can see, I already have a Magnum design with everything. If I just show you how this looks like, sorry, let me just close this. So again, I have this surface. I'm gonna call this ice cream. I've already modeled this and created a perfect UV out of this, and to show this, I've also loaded in a camera and also one HDRI. So now we can perfectly focus on, now you know how to model an ice cream and how you can create a UV. So you can add your textures according to yourself. If you want to add a different name, you can do that. So I've also attached the name here and everything. So now we can concentrate on the main thing, which is the Bifrost sim. All right, so let's get started with the Bifrost sim. I'm gonna select my HDR and let's turn this off for now. This is where our grid is. If you want, you can create a group out of this. I'm gonna keep them outside, let it be. Let's call this camera main cam. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to load in your Bifrost. If you cannot see your Bifrost menu right here, or if you go to FX, you cannot see your Bifrost fluids right here, what you have to do is go to Windows, Setting Preferences, and Plugin Manager. And in the Plugin Manager, scroll down to the bottom, and in the bottom you should see Bifrost. All right, so make sure you load all of this and set it to auto load, and that's it. You'll be good to go. All right, so this is what we have, and we are going to begin our sim. Now, a few things to keep in mind regarding the Bifrost sim. Bifrost is a pretty heavy language, so it's going to consume a lot of RAM. It's going to consume a lot of time to catch and process, so be aware of that. All right, so now we are going to create a liquid. Now, to create a liquid in Bifrost, you need some kind of emitter. It cannot create its own emitter, so we are going to take a simple sphere for the emission purpose, and I'm going to bring this up. and I'm gonna make the scale to somewhere about maybe like 0.6. All right, maybe this should fit, or maybe like 0.5. All right, this looks quite good, and I'm gonna bring this a little bit downwards. All right, we can always change the position, and this will act as our emitter. Okay, now select this, go to Bifrost and simply hit liquid. All right, now wait for some time, it will create the sim. Now go to first frame and start playing this. All right, so once you start playing, you'll notice that you get a little bit of particles going here. I don't know if it's completely visible or not. Now you can see that there are particles. The particles are few, very less and very few, and there are some chances that when you create this, when you click on your sphere and go to Bifrost liquid and click on liquid, you cannot see, you're unable to see any type of particle. The reason may be because your sphere is too small, the object is too small. So try scaling up your object if you cannot see any particle. This is a common problem. It's not exactly a problem, it's basically there are some you can say limitations with the scales. Some scales need to be a little higher for the perfect simulation, you can say in different language. So you need at least 0.5 scale for this guy here. If I go any lower than that, it might not work. It might not. It totally depends on the scale of your entire project right now. So again, try scaling up, it should solve the problem. Now as you can see, we have some kind of liquid. It's falling down, it's not a lot. And one more thing, it's not exactly pouring, it's just dropping few droplets. So we don't want that, we want the liquid to be perfectly pouring. So what we can do is we can go to attribute editor, and here you'll notice that we have Bifrost liquid. Click on that. All right, and scroll to the Bifrost liquid and scroll up, and here you'll notice that we have emitter prop. You can also see that right here, emitter prop, and here in the emitter prop you'll see properties, and in that you'll see continuous emission. So when you click on this, it will continuously keep emitting the particles. So if I play this, you'll notice that the particles are continuously being emitted from the emitter. All right, so that's it. So as simple as that. Now moving on with the next step, if we notice that the liquid is completely passing through our object, right? So there, so it looks like our object is completely hollow, so we don't want that. So we want to create this object as a collider. Now before doing that, I'm gonna create a permanent smoothing for this guy. So I'm gonna select this and shift right click, and let's smooth this out. All right, to about, I think 1 division is enough. I'm gonna go for 2, and I'm gonna do the same with this guy. I'm gonna smooth this out. All right, I don't think we need to worry about the stick, it's not going to be falling on the stick, but whatever. All right, so we have this now. So now to create the emitter, all we have to do is make sure you have some particles going on. Select the container of your liquid and shift select your object, shift select, and go to Bifrost fluids, and you go basically to collider. All right, click on that. Now you'll notice that you get another attribute, that is Bifrost collider, and make sure you name your collider just so it's easier. Now we have a simple sim here, it's not too much, it's not too complex, so it's a bit easier for us to understand. But if you have a complex in a lot of colliders, then you probably need to name them. So I'm gonna call this ice cream, so I know the difference if I've holding ice cream collider or the stick collider. All right, so that's it. Now let's play this. All right, let's see how this looks. And okay, so this looks pretty good, it's falling and so on. And if you want to see how this actually looks in the render engine, I'm gonna turn on the display here, and let me just turn on the IPR. All right, so as you can see, we get a small error that the camera shape cannot be found. The reason is because I changed the name of our camera. So I'm just gonna switch back to it, and as you can see, we can see the water droplets. All right, now by default, Bifrost shade the liquid as the water. So what you can do is, if you want, you can maybe change it to a different material. Let's say we can go to shader, stand surface, and let's call this, or let's say liquid. I think I already named chocolate on the Magnum itself. So now we have something that looks like this. We can change it into any color you want for your understanding. I'm going to keep it to white. So you'll notice that the liquid looks pretty bad. It's very rigid. It doesn't look that good. So we have to solve this problem. So now you know how this looks. Apart from this, if you don't want to keep seeing this in the render view because it's going to be a pretty time consuming process. Keep watching it in the render view. What you can basically do is select your overall liquid here, and I'm running on a bit of a bug here, and you can go to Bifrost meshing here. You'll notice in the liquid shape, and you can enable this. So you'll notice that you get some kind of dense mesh here in your scene. And this is just for the visualization that how your mesh is going to look like, how your liquid is going to look like in the render view. So you can turn this on, or you can turn this off. All right, so let's concentrate on making this liquid more of a chocolate dripping kind of thing. So the thing here is now Bifrost by default creates something like a water. All right, so we have to make it a bit more denser, a bit more viscosity into it. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to select my container here, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go to my liquid property here, container, and this is where all of the magic happens pretty much. So here we have gravity, direction, and everything. Now apart from that, we have something called as the viscosity here. If you'll notice, I'm going to make the viscosity to somewhere about 500, and that is a lot of viscosity, I know, but the chocolate that they use are pretty dense. If you melt them, they are pretty denser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this play out, and we'll see how this looks. And I'm sure we don't have a lot of particle, but it should give us the idea of how this is overall playing out. Alright, so as you can see, we are not getting the exact idea how this is going to look like. So there are two things that we need to do here. The first thing is we can actually go to our emission, and here you'll find particle distribution. In the particle distribution, I'm going to increase more particle on the interior part of the simulation. So I'm going to create 2 for the interior particle density, and when I play this again, you'll notice that we have a bit more particle in here. Apart from that, we are still unable to see how much liquid is going to spread out here. So what the last thing we have to do is basically you'll notice that we have a tab called resolution, and this is the overall quality of your entire Bifrost. If you want better simulation or better looking liquid, all you have to do is lower this number. This is the entire magic of entire Bifrost. So if you have worked with 3D fluid, here you have something called as the base resolution, which is by default set to 10. The more base resolution you have, the more good quality you're going to get in your 3D fluid. Similarly, you have master voxel size in Bifrost. The lower you go on this value, the better simulation looking you're going to get. But be careful lowering this number, go gradually. If you go with a very steep value, it might crash your system or so on. So I'm going to go for 0.200. You're very good to go till 0.100, but after 0.100, be careful with the numbers because it might crash your system. So I'm going to go for 0.200 and let's see how this sim is overall looking. Until now, our overall viewport is smooth. The simulation is looking smooth. We don't have to worry about anything right now. But as it goes higher and higher in the timeline, you'll notice that we are getting more particle in our scene, and thus our scene will get a little bit more heavier. So as you can see, we are getting something like this, all right, which is not exactly that bad, but I think we need to make it a bit more interesting. So I'm going to go a little lower. I'm going to go 0.100, and we are going to go even lower, but not right now when we are going to do our final catching. So let's just visualize this with the 0.100 value, how this actually looks. And I think we should get more particles, and yeah, there you go. So as you can see, since we have a very lower amount of voxel size, we get more particles and much better looking simulation, and this is actually giving us the idea how our simulation is overall looking. All right, so there you go. And I think we need to bring our emitter a little bit downwards because the gravity is kind of pulling it very harshly. So I'm gonna pause this right here. All right, so this is what it looks like. And I'm just going to go to my personal main camera, and from our main camera, the emitter is pretty far. So I'm going to select my emitter and then bring this down. All right, to right about here. And now we can go back and run the sim again. So Bifrost is pretty good with the handling the overall. If you move around stuff, it's completely fine. All right, so this is what our sim looks like. Now again, we are going to give it a little bit of trial here, and we are just going to see how this is actually looking. So let's turn on our IPR and we'll see how this is actually turning out to be. Let's see, I'm going to go to render. Let's update the full scene. And do we have material applied? All right, so there you go. As you can see, we are getting much smoother looking liquid. It needs to be improved even more, but for now it looks pretty good. Now the two things we want to change in this entire simulation. As you can see, we have continuous emission turned on. So that means basically our simulation, our entire emission will keep going on and on and on. And we want to change that. We want the liquid to stop at some point. So what we are going to basically do is we are going to make some adjustment to our emission. So I'm going to go to my emitter and I'm going to make the emission stop. So like you see in the commercial, the liquid is pouring and final drops, few drops you can see pours out. So we are going to create something like that. So you'll notice that we have continuous emission turned on here. So what we can do is go to maybe somewhere like 75, right click, set key on this, and then you can maybe go to 80 and or you can just set it to 81 and turn this off and right click, set key. So on the 80th keyframe, you'll notice that we have continuous emission turned on. On the 81th, you'll notice that we don't have any continuous emission. So that means I'm going to just lower the resolution on this guy just so we can see a bit better how our simulation is looking with continuous emission being animated. So let's bring this back, turn this on. And so this is our liquid pouring out. All right, it's going to keep pouring out a lot of chocolate. It's going to keep going on and on and on. And as it reaches on the 75th keyframe, it's going to stop. All right, so let's see. And there you go. So now you have last bit of chocolate coming down and filling out the whole ice cream. So there you go. So this looks pretty good to me. If you want, you can keep the continuous emission turned on. It's totally up to you again. Now, one more thing, you don't actually need to see this emitter. So I'm going to hide this by hitting H on my keyboard. And if you want to see this again, you can simply select this and hit Shift H on your keyboard to make it visible again. All right, so everything looks good. Apart from one thing, if you'll notice how our simulation is looking, you'll notice that it's pretty linear. We don't see a lot of here and there things going around, a bit of twirling, or the chocolate is just straight coming down without having any movement into it. So we are going to bring some movement into it. So I'm going to go to my Bifrost fluid here and simply go to motion field. All right, so this is basically overall like for example, we use fields and solver in end particle and cloth fluids and so on. This Bifrost has its own fluid you can say motion field system where you can create multiple things. So I'm going to turn off direction. I don't need any direction. What we want is the turbulence. All right, so I'm going to go for a magnitude value of maybe 3, and frequency speed I'm going to keep it to default, and let's see how this actually looking, how much turbulence we have in our scene, and then we'll see how much adjustment we have to do. We can add a bit more drag if you want to make a bit of a slow movement into this. So yeah, I think this is looking quite good. You can see the movement overall here while falling down. Okay, so this looks pretty good to me. Again, if you want, you can add a bit of a drag here. You'll notice that we have a drag value of 0.5. This will just slow the whole sim down. If you go higher and higher, it will make your sim slower and slower. It will add a bit of a drag in here. So again, it's totally up to you if you want a bit of a drag. Let's keep the drag on and let's pour the overall liquid here. And looks pretty good. I think the one last thing we need in this is a bit more viscosity. It's not properly dripping out that much. So what I'm gonna do is let's maybe go to the liquid and let's change this to here. And again, I'm gonna go to 0.100 just to see my final sim, how this is looking. Let's turn everything off. Let's go to viscosity and maybe 550 value. And that's it. So let's go back and we'll go for a final scene and then we'll maybe shade it. All right, so I've stopped my simulation. Let's see how this is looking. I'm gonna pause this and let's go to HDRI and I'm gonna go back in here and let's turn the LOD visibility on and let's see how this is looking. And yeah, and there you go. So it looks pretty interesting. I think we have to go even lower than our overall resolution here. We can create even smoother, but the overall liquid looks pretty good. So let's maybe change the overall color here. I'm gonna go back here and I'm just gonna pick this brown color and I'm just gonna make it a little darker. Yeah, there you go. So it looks pretty good. So again, for the final part, I'm pretty happy with the sim. Again, if you want to change anything, if you want a bit more denser fluid or something like that, if you want a bit more viscosity, you can add a bit more viscosity in here. So what you can do is, again, if you want to visualize this, you can go to liquid shape and you can turn on Bifrost meshing. This will just give you the idea of how your entire mesh or you can say liquid is going to look like in the render view. Apart from that, you can also go to your overall parameter and you can go lower, which we are going to be doing because we are going to do our final catching now. And again, you can add a bit more viscosity in here, and if you want a bit more fluidity or sticking on the ice cream, you can also turn on the surface tension. What surface tension is basically, I'm going to explain this in future, but it basically you can say, if you have seen those experiments where you basically hold a tissue paper on top of the glass, you flip the glass, but the water doesn't come out. That is basically water tension, because the water pretty much absorbs all over the tissue paper and creates that tension around the glass. But as you shake the glass, the tension breaks out. So this is pretty much similar to that. So the liquid is pouring, it will be really hard to go down on the surface. So you can turn on the surface tension if you want. It's not needed, but again, it's totally up to you. Again, you can play around with the continuous emission if you want it or not, if you want to keyframe it, or if you just want to let it keep rolling on and on and on. It's totally up to you. So I have 120 frame here. All right, I'm going to keep it to 120 frame here, and let's quickly move on how to catch this. Now to catch this, what you have to do is basically select a liquid and go to Bifrost. And here you'll find compute and cache to disk. What you can do is click on this icon, and here you'll find the destination where you want to cache this item. Apart from that, what you can do is you can set a name. You can call this Magnum if you want, and what format this will be. Are you catching simulation or mesh as well? You can select that. You can create a time slider from where you want it to be, from 0 to 100. You can choose it from the render setting, or you can basically add your own entire value. Like for example, if you miss out any frame, like for example, I guess I've done some adjustment in the past simulation of my own, and then you have read, write, last matching frame, and so on. So all you have to do for this is simulation time slider, as you can see here, and again select the path, and all you have to do is create. So I'm gonna see you after my catch is done. All right guys, so my catching is done, and this is what my catch overall looks like. So this is just a temporary catch for me. So as you can see, we have voxel liquid, which is BIF file, Bifrost, and then you'll also have this solid volume file as well. All right, so this is what it looks like, and the master voxel for me was 0.80. So again, you can go lower than this, but I was actually making a video, so I kept it in a reasonable amount of number. So let's see how this looks like. I'm using HDRI, but we are going to switch this to an area light just so you guys can see. All right, so that's it. I'm gonna turn this on, and let's go to main shape, and there you go. So this is the overall how our ice cream overall looks like and how our simulation went. So again, you can go lower than this, and this is what your chocolate simulation looks like. So you can again since this is catch, I can go to any frame that I want, and I can see how my liquid is actually looking, or where I need to you can say adjust even more. So this is pretty seamless now. Since this is catch, we can pretty much do anything what we want from this. All right, so this looks pretty interesting to me now. Now for the shading part, again, there's nothing. We have just added a simple standard surface, nothing fancy, nothing too much regarding this. But again, you can get rid of the HDRI if you want. You can take a simple area light to shade this, and I'm gonna bring this out here, and let's simply hit G on your keyboard, and let's bring this out here, bring this right about there, and there you go. And I'm gonna also take one area light, and let's bring this back, and let's rotate this overall, make sure it is -180, and that's it. All right, so we have two light. This will be our key, this will be our backlight. So I'm just naming them for temporary purpose. All right, but you guys should name them perfectly. All right, so this is my key light. I'm gonna make this 10 exposure. I think we'll need even more. All right, 12 is looking good. And for the backlight, again, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna pause this. I don't think, yeah. So we are running into that bug of Maya. And this is what our backlight overall looks like. I think the exposure is too high on this. All right, and if you want, you can dial this down. Let's see, if you dial it down to maybe 8, you can have a bit more revealing here. You can add a revealing animation for your overall Bifrost. Again, in the backlight, if you want, you can just add a bit of a color in here to something maybe like this. Done. And then again, for the key light, I'm gonna go for 12. And for the backlight, okay, actually we changed the different light. So I'm gonna select this, I'm gonna keep this, and I'm gonna keep this white. All right, let's increase the exposure to 10. And again, we can change the color if you want a bit of a different color looking like. And the exposure here is too much. It's pretty much eating out everything in here. But again, you can use an HDRI if you want, or you can create a simple 2-point lighting or 3-point lighting setup for this kind of thing. And if you want to do some animation with this, if you want to render out an animation, I've already actually made a video on how you can export this into an image sequence, but just a quick tool. So what you can do is you can go to here, you can type in your name. For example, this is our Magnum sim. And then instead of change your extension to name extension, and with the frame padding of 4. Frame padding is basically how many zero they're going to be. For example, 001, 002, and that is basically the frame numbering. So instead of single frame, just choose any extension you want. Apart from that, you can choose one start and end frame. So it's going to be 120 for us. And the renderable camera will be main. If you want to keep it to 1K or 2K, again, it's totally up to you. And in the Arnold, I'm using the GPU right now, so I'm going to keep it to for the viewing purpose, I'm keeping it to 8 because it's faster to load and everything. As you can see, it only takes, I don't know, 4 seconds or 3 seconds, but for the final part, obviously you're going to need much more than, so you can keep it to 20 or something like that. All right, so once you start and start calculating how much time it's taking for it to completely render out this. So I'm assuming it's going to take from 15 to 20 seconds per frame. So that is a good number for me. So I can render on that. Well, all right, once you're done with everything, all you have to do is go switch to rendering menu, go to render, and here you'll find render sequence. Click on this, browse wherever you want to save this, and simply hit render sequence and close, and that's it. You're good to go. So yeah, this was it. Everybody was kind of excited and demanding for the Bifrost, so here it is. Again, thank you so much for 10k sub, and this was just my way of appreciating all the support that everyone has given me, and many more to come. So yeah, cheers and thanks for everything, and I'll see you next time.